old books, these classic texts of philosophy, finds ideas that can be used in modern life. Everybody bear with me because, like I said, I didn't have coffee, so the words are coming slowly. He finds ideas that you can use in modern life, and based on doing that, he started Diamond Cutter Institute, which I imagine everybody here is familiar with. And if you're not, check it out, Diamond Cutter Institute and the Sedona College of International Management. These are two companies that Geshe Michael started that are focused on teaching people to take the ideas used in these philosophical books and make them practical. And so that people can apply them right now. And a lot of the discussion is simplified, or it's deep and it's powerful, but it's not like what we do in these mixed nuts classes where we're talking through a lot of theoretical things and intellectual ideas. It's mostly how to take these intellectual ideas and philosophical things and put them into practice right now, as he would say, with your husband in the kitchen. And it's helped a lot of people, and it's helped me a lot. My first talk with Geshe Michael was a DCI talk, the first thing I ever saw, and I wasn't impressed. Like, I was just like, oh, okay, whatever, everybody knows that. But it drew me in. I was captivated enough to go to a philosophical, like a more spiritual talk, and then I was really amazed at how deep the rabbit hole goes, I guess they say. Like how if you understand emptiness, how that implies that you can reach enlightenment, and that's what really blew my mind. But these DCI and making these ideas palatable and practical for people, it attracts a lot of people and it helps a lot of people. And like 1 out of 100 of those people will come and go deeper and become like a teacher who can also help more people. And then 1 out of 1,000 of those people will become like a philosophy expert who can help to do this and diamond mine, like look for the old books. My point is, look through the old books for ideas that we can use to help people. And my point is that this is a special skill, and it's rare to be able to do this, and you can help a lot of people. Like if you can find ideas contained in these books and turn them into something, turn them into a practical tool for people, it's really special, because you can help a lot of people to change the problems in their world, or to get rid of the problems in their world. And it's a rare skill. So I think that it's cool to take the opportunity to see if it's something you want to do or dabble in. So I'll share with you a life tool that I wrote specifically for the purpose of teaching this kind of class. And it's, I'm not trying to say that this is the most helpful life tool in the world or something, and because everything you come up with doesn't have to be. Geshe Michael does have a really special skill, but he's been practicing for 40 something years at doing stuff like this. So, and he's quite a genius. But if we work on it, we can come up with some cool, helpful stuff. And I think just getting the juices flowing is fun. So let's give it a shot. I'm going to show you a life tool that I wrote, and I tried to write it in a similar style to how Geshe Michael writes his life tools in the DCI manuals. And he wanted me to. And then I'll show you where it came from. It's from the book that I'm working on translating, which was, I finished it. Well, it's not published yet, but we finished translating Gyaltsab Je's commentary to Nagarjuna's 60 verses on reasoning. And that's where this life tool comes from. So let's see. Here's the life tool. Oh, it's weird. Which document do you guys see?
Nothing just yet.
Oh, it says I'm sharing.
As
Do
you
you
see
see my screen?
I see you and I see a black screen.
Okay, hold on a second. Try sharing. I'm having issues with this. I probably need to update Zoom. Let's try this. Desktop. All right. Where to go? Here we go. Can you see SCIM1B diamond mining?
That's your
Small
baby.
picture of my baby.
Oh yeah.
Okay. This is her a while ago. She's much bigger now, but I built a new floor in my house and she wanted to help. Johnny O came up and helped. And this was because she smashed her face on the tile like 5 times. And Aaron was like, "You're putting in a floor." And I was like, "Okay." So there we go. Small steps to big goals. Okay, this is one big life tool. I'll just go through. I'm just going to show you. It's long. Okay, it's made of many parts. We're not going to read the whole thing together. I'm just going to show you some highlights. And then, pay attention to kind of the steps that I took to create this and just see if you have any questions. Especially if you're interested in doing this yourself. And every now and then, Geshe Michael will like do some kind of contest where we ask people to submit life tools and then he'll offer money for the best ones. It's hilarious, right? The game show thing.
I did not think it was real.
It's amazing.
Especially during the Arena Garjana, because it's recordings and he's like offering money, and I'm like, ah.
I didn't think about that. All right. So this one I called small steps to big goals. And this is really cool because this as you know, I translated Gyaltsab J's commentary to the 60 verses on reasoning. And now when we're doing my class during the term, in case you didn't realize this, we are working on a lecture that Jason Kappa gave on the 60 verses on reasoning. And Gyaltsab J took notes. And we just reached this exact same part in the text where Jason Kappa was talking about the part of the 60 verses where Arya Nagarjuna is talking about teaching people in steps, that you have to go through, and it's going to be on my quiz today too. So I'll give you a heads up on that right now. It's like Jason Kappa is talking about how Arya Nagarjuna mentions that there was a reason for talking about things as if they existed from their own side. And that reason is because you have to inspire people from a certain point. This is kind of, it's completely related to the existence of DCI as well, because it's kind of what we're doing with DCI. We're talking about things in a simplified way, or in a way that's almost the true meaning of the philosophy, in a way that more people will be able to relate to, and then we bring them in like a funnel. And that's what Nagarjuna is saying too. He's saying the reason that Buddha in the first turning of the wheel talked about Kenjik, right, starting and ending, or nirvana and samsara that exist from their own side also. The reason that he talks about it that way is because it'll inspire people to start to think about impermanence. Like specifically, if people think about starting and ending, then they'll be considering impermanence. And then if people consider impermanence, they'll start to develop a wish in their heart to escape from samsara, because everything's impermanent. So it's painful. So then they would start to develop this wish. And then if people can develop that wish in their heart, then maybe they will work to escape samsara. And then if they're working to escape samsara, they will learn about emptiness. And then if they're learning about emptiness, eventually they'll be able to see emptiness. That's the trajectory. So that's why we called this small steps to big goals. And so at the beginning of the life tool here, and Geshe Michael is really big on using nice photos. I'm always inspired, of course, by pictures of my daughter, so I assume everyone else would be, but I'm open to changing it. He's very specific about how he formats everything. He's given long discourses on putting this black outline around the photo and all these things. Um, you know, if you ever want to try to create something that could end up in a DCI manual, which is possible, if you guys write and send me a life tool that's really good, and relevant to whatever Geshe Michael's teaching in that particular life tool, I'll pass it along to him and be like, look, this one's awesome. You might want to put it in the manual, and he's open to it. And he'll give you a bunch of money.
I'm gonna quit my job.
Yeah, just start writing life tools. You have to find really good photos.
And answer questions.
That's what he's looking for. So I'm just giving like a general description of what we're talking about here, how, at first maybe we would have resistance to some ideas in DCI that are presented, and how it's important for teachers to understand that we need to proceed in steps, or just if we want to help people. I remember when I first started learning about seeds, and I like wanted to tell everybody I knew. I was like, this is amazing, like you can just change the world with mental seeds. It's incredible. And I was with my family one holiday, and I started telling my sister, and she just like put her hand on my leg and was like, it's okay, you don't have to say anything. she was like, you're amazing. She's like, you're just a good example. Just be you, and you're inspiring people. Like, it was her nice way of telling me to just shut up about the thing. And not everybody is in the position to hear about it. I mean, my sister's amazing. She already knows. But the point is that, we can try to remember when it was new for us and which ideas might have been harder for us to swallow or we weren't ready to hear about. And we should try to embrace that concept with others, in terms of how we present these ideas. And because if we want to help somebody, we have to be skillful. It's not just like, oh, I told you about seeds. It's just your problem if you can't hear it. It's more than that. Like if we're really trying to help people, then it's worth it for us to consider how to skillfully help people. And that is a lot of work. It takes a lot of thought and care. And that's what this life tool is about. And that's what I'm explaining here in this first page. In order to help ensure that others will be able to find the happiness and success that they truly seek, it is important that we can find the correct, skillful methods to help point them in the right direction, wherever they happen to be at in terms of how they see the world. So the first section of this life tool is called Ripen the Mind. And it's the ideas that I threw in the life tool are like a child who doesn't want to share their toys. And we encourage them. I'm dealing with this exact thing right now. Actually, it's amazing. Amelie, she knows Maitri, Seiji's kid. We live in a different state now. But every day she talks about him, and she's like, Maitri wants to play with my toys, but I don't want to let him. It's really hilarious. We're like, well, you have to share, honey. Anyway, we're trying to, so one thing, in order to ripen the mind, you can't always just explain the ideas of seeds to people. They might not understand it, or they might not be willing to believe it. So in the case of a kid who's feeling selfish and they're just learning about different people and how different people can possess things, I think usually, your instinct being born into this world is to want to hold things to yourself. And we all have some degree of that instinct. At least I do. So sometimes we trick people a little bit into learning what it feels like to share, getting them into that flow. So this first part of the life tool is about maybe bribing people to share. In the case of a kid, maybe you promise them some kind of reward that's even better if they will share. You'll give them a cookie or something like that. And it's just a trick. It's just to get them to do it and to plant some good seeds. So the idea is that, once they get in the habit of planting good seeds, it will ripen and it'll become more, well, the habit will arise within them and it will get easier for them to do it, which I think is true on a very conventional psychological level because it feels good. And it's also true according to the teachings of karma. And and the idea, yeah, is that they would then, and I think that the idea of DCI in general is that Geshe Michael convinces people to be more generous because that's going to help them have more wealth. So in a way, we all are this kid. And Geshe Michael has been, just trying to convince us to do a little bit of sharing. And the idea is that would ripen for us as like since we plant such a good seed of generosity, yeah, maybe some money will come back to us. But I think more importantly, and this we don't talk about as much in DCI, in the big public talks, but more importantly, as we get used to giving and we get into this whole flow, we get into like a higher level of being. It gives you access to a higher level of being where you become somebody who's sharing and giving. And yeah, I don't know, I like to think of it as being in a flow. A lot of my friends who are wealthy, not all of them, but friends of mine who are wealthy are very much like that. Like they live in a whole different flow of giving, where they're just generous and they're not really thinking about things the way that maybe I would be. So
That's a great point, Nick, because like I noticed by doing these, especially during the pandemic and Geshe teaching all of these classes and the 4 steps, my relationship to money has changed. Which has been more important to me than anything is that like the way I interact with it now is just more, there's a generous attitude towards it, or you know what I mean? Rather than I just feel different about it. Even though like the overall numbers have sort of fluctuated, my feeling has changed slightly. So that's a good,
yeah,
yeah.
me too. I can relate with that. And being married and having a family forced me into that too, but I kind of just like had to let go and just like, okay, just let it flow.
Yeah.
But I think in a similar way to what you just described, the numbers, fluctuate.
Yeah.
but my feeling about it also. And thank you. So as DCI practitioners, yeah. So here we're talking about the habit. So I'm using things from scriptures. I'll show you exactly where I got what inspired me to write this specific part of the life tool. And then we'll go to the next part. Okay. Let me see if I can find the other version. Not that one. Okay. So here's Nagarjuna. Okay. Oh, wait, no, that's not the one. Let me switch to this one. All right. Wow. In the 12th verse, which I'll get to in a second here. Here we go. That's why I couldn't find it. Well, this is inconvenient. But anyway, in the 12th verse, Nagarjuna talks about how you have to take people, how first you ripen people's minds. I guess I was wrong about which verse it was. Oh, that's what it was. So in the 12th verse, Arya Nagarjuna starts a discussion about the 16 aspects of the four Arya truths. Some of you guys were here, were in these classes while we were discussing this. And I had to make this really big footnote about it. And then somebody comes back and, Tibetan texts are always often talking in this debate format, which to me is kind of frustrating sometimes. I mean, I do this all day, so I'm used to it now. But reading a book where the author is like arguing with invisible enemies, it's kind of like tense sometimes and like unnecessarily so from my perspective. Like it doesn't always have to be such a fight. But maybe there is some kind of fight going on in our mind, and that's why it needs to be that way, or that's why it can be helpful. Anyway, that's the style of the Tibetan authors. And so when Gyaltsabje is going through this discussion of the 16 aspects of the four Arya truths, one of the opponents brings up this idea that like, hey, wait a minute, like these 16 aspects aren't even real. Like this is just some like lower school teaching. Why are we even talking about this? And then he makes a point to say, look, it's there's a specific purpose of why Lord Buddha taught the 16 aspects of the four Arya truths in general. By the way, those are like 16 experiences you have when you see emptiness directly. And Geshe Michael did a beautiful teaching on them in Thailand one year where he breaks down what they are and then he correlates them to, I guess, personal experiences that that he thinks represent those, or that those ideas represent, things like recognizing that all the scriptures are totally true, or some of the things that he's, I think, experienced in his life. So anyway, he says that the position of Master Nagarjuna and Aryadeva is that the 16 aspects were taught by the Buddha only for students who are comforted by these kinds of ideas. And he taught it to them for the specific purpose of ripening their minds. So the phrase ripening their minds is coming from Gyaltsabje, who's referring to Nagarjuna and Aryadeva, who was like Nagarjuna's main student or one of his main students. And then this is an occasion when we're using figurative speech to help people and to help yourself. So that's what's going on. Like figurative speech is one way of putting it, but with that part of the life tool, we're using kind of lower ideas, lower ways of looking at things to help get people to the point where they can plant seeds for their minds to open themselves and for them to reach a higher level of thinking, or a more open way of thinking involving seeds and stuff like that. And the classic story that Geshe Michael uses, like they're at a restaurant and they need to give the guy a tip, and the person that he's with at a restaurant is really cheap, and then he leaves $100 bill on the table, and then he goes to the bathroom. He's like, oh, can you just give this guy a tip? And then that cheap guy gives the tip, and then he gets what it feels like to be generous, and then maybe that awakens something for him and he can start being more generous, or it inspires him a little bit, because it does feel good to give people money. I love handing somebody $100 bill. It's amazing. It's a really great feeling. All right. and then I'll move through this next part a little bit more quickly, and then I'll leave time if you guys want to discuss any of this or have questions or whatever. Step by step. This is cool. This relates to the part of the text that we just covered and that I just went over with you guys. So these are the kind of pictures that Geshe Michael often finds. He uses these websites like 123RF, and there's a few. They're hilarious. When you look through these photos, they all look the same. And it always blows my mind that photographers do this. Like, how do they think of every possible search phrase and then take a picture of it? I don't know how they, anyway, it kind of blows my mind. So something to keep in mind if you're trying to share these ideas with people and you've been studying for a while is that, you know, some of this stuff might seem really obvious and basic to you, but it's important to try to remember what it was like for you before you had been exposed to these ideas, or, you know, where someone else might be at. And that's kind of why we need to, as teachers, remind ourselves that sometimes it's really important to go step by step and start from a pretty basic idea. So I'm talking about all that. I can send you guys this life tool if you're interested in reading it. I'm happy to pass it along to everybody. It's fun. So Gyaltsab, in this point in the text, I'll show you exactly where I got it from. He gives really specific steps along which we can take people. And instead of, you know, sometimes in DCI, when you're writing a life tool, you got to extrapolate pretty far. Like, you don't want to touch what the original text says because it's too complicated or it's too weird, and people won't be able to relate to it. In this case, I stuck with the text pretty closely and just tried to use language that people would be able to relate to. But I probably could pare it down even more and make the language even more relatable. But these are pretty much exactly the steps that Gyaltsab went through. Every result involves many causes that brings it about. Oh, he talks about in order to get people to this, to be able to see emptiness, we have to start from starting and stopping, you know, and the fact that everything's impermanent, basically. And he gives specific parts of that teaching that you might want to share with people. And the first one, he says, it's every result involves many causes. And I tried to extrapolate from that something that would be relatable for people. So he calls them the 3 painful facts of life. He calls this teaching that he gives. And I was trying to think of a way to make it something that I would like want to say to people in public. Like, and I landed on that it's helpful to remember that we can't control seeds in the moment, because there's so many different, as we're studying in these texts, factors and causes that bringing something into being. We can't control something. Once something has already ripened, like if somebody insults us or something, like you can't use karma to put that insult back into their mouth. You know, it already happened. But one of the first steps, and this is helpful for me, is to remember, like, yeah, okay, I understand karma. I'd like to change that, but you know, that was painful, and the painful things that happen in life already happened. And there's so many things that make that happen. Like, the karma brings so many factors together. Like, there's no way I could just stop it. So it helps me from feeling bad about it, first of all. You know, I'm just kind of like, okay, this is what's going on. And, you know, how to move forward, that will be the next step. So I think people would be able to relate to that. And it's just kind of like more lighthearted ways of relating with the fact that the world is painful and we don't have control over that for the most part, at least in the moment. And that's a hard concept to deliver. And Geshe Michael doesn't talk about it that much in DCI, because a lot of people just want to hear uplifting things. They don't want to hear about the reality of of life being painful. And when I was living in Phoenix, Arizona, me and my friend started a little Dharma group of wealthy yogis. And when we got to, I mean, Rob, you were there sometimes, I'm sure you
Yeah.
remember. And when we got to the point where we were talking about renunciation, we got a lot of argument from people. They were like, life is good. Like, what are you talking about? You know, why are you guys being so negative? And I was like, this is so cliche. Come on, guys. Like, why are you, you know better than this? But it was true. Like, we got pushback, people left. And it's just not everybody's wants to talk about this. And if you notice in DCI, I guess Michael doesn't talk about it much. And he's super skillful. I mean, he can talk about anything and just people are like, yeah. But it's funny. Something I talk about because I teach in our college too. People, you can't rely on just saying what Geshe Michael said a lot of the time, unless you're as good of a teacher as he is. But for the most part, you can say exactly what he said, even in copying his inflections, and people are gonna be like, "What are you talking about?"
So common.
Yeah, it's
Bruce
funny.
Karma. Yeah.
Yeah, he's got some special seeds,
Yeah.
but
I've definitely done word for word before. And I was like, and totally disagreed. And that was ridiculous what you just said. And I was like, that's what I just repeated. You were there, right? Yeah.
I try to warn I warn people about that. I'm like, this is totally gonna happen. Like, you know, if you're not Geshe Michael, it's just how it's gonna go down. And people, you know, I'm like, you can't just show someone a pen and they're gonna be like, oh, you know, I'm like, he can, and it happens, and then you're gonna try, and people are gonna be like, what are you talking about? Like, um, okay, every cause brings about infinite results. This is what Gyaltsab J said. And then so this is where the diamond mining is happening, right? Gyaltsab J said, every result involves many causes that bring it about. And I had to just like sit with that phrase and think about it and be like, okay, how can I take that phrase and turn it into something that is relatable for people and can help them understand, you know, the pain of life, but without, you know, saying that too blatantly that would annoy people or scare people away from wanting to listen. And that's where I kind of found this, what I find was like a little bit of a middle ground to talk about, like, yeah, it's difficult and it's hard to stop things in the moment, right? You know, we can all agree on that. Like, if something annoying is happening, it's hard to stop it in the moment. Every cause brings about infinite results. This is what Gyaltsab J said. And so once again, I'm just trying to relate it to something that, you know, maybe people in DCI have heard about already and that they'll feel comfortable with, but still helps to further the point. So like I focused on that, the fact that the seeds multiply wildly, and that and this you can look at from a negative or positive angle. You know, if you do something negative, you better do the 4 powers, you know, because it can create very unpleasant situations if left unchecked. And on the flip side, you know, it's great that seeds multiply if you're consciously planting good seeds.
Is that the
So I
same
think
as karma? Is that the same as karma grows?
yeah,
Okay.
it is karma grows.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, cool. All right.
Yeah. But and I guess in this context, Gyaltsab J was talking about, he called it the 3 painful facts of life. So I think he took that law and
Yep.
focused on the negative aspect of it. Every cause brings about infinite results. You know, when he mentioned it, he wasn't more specific. So I don't know. I don't know exactly the context that he was thinking when he said it, but that's the way I took it. Everything, the third one that he mentioned was everything that exists will fall apart on its own. So this is what I imagined the red bug, for those of you who've heard the story that Geshe Michael taught the mailman in. This what I imagined it looked like. Did you ever see the car, Rob?
Did not. No. I had one though.
Nice. I have a Volkswagen now. They're great. Uh, they say college educated, apparently. uh, So this is like, I try in my description here in the life tool to, keep coming back to the fact that we can keep planting new seeds, and this is something I observed that Geshe Michael does very skillfully. Yeah, everything's going to fall apart, but we can keep them going if we just understand the system, if we just understand how to use the 4 steps. Anyway, so these were what Gyaltsab presented as the 3 painful facts of life. I don't need to talk too much about that because you guys all know what it means. Causes wear out, and then of course things fall apart. So we can continue once people do understand the 3 painful facts of life. And Gyaltsab also says this. We can move on to these steps. We can give up desire for things which no longer serve us. Then we can give up thinking that things are themselves. I mean, I think this is all pretty self-explanatory. We don't think the deliciousness is in the ice cream, so that's what I'm talking about here.
That looks good.
We are able to understand the infinite potential of things. So that's where this is all going, right? We're trying to get to emptiness and to the direct perception of emptiness. And Gyaltsab happened to outline steps. And here I give an example here. There's my little girl again. And I gave an example of sleep training her and how we had to take it step by step, because it was literally like you keep the chair next to the crib and then you move away and then you move away and then eventually you're out of the room. This lady, Hillary from Canada, hired her to help me. She's a sleep trainer. Do you remember her, Rob? She came to down Fred and Hillary. She's awesome.
Yeah.
So these are the steps that we were just talking about in the last class, and we'll go over in my quiz a little bit. But I'll just show you the verse. This time I think I can really do it. I'll show you the verse in the text where I got that.
Is there a PDF version of this text?
This text is not checked by Geshe Michael yet.
Gotcha.
So yeah, before we edit them, we don't want them to spread around. There's a PDF version of the beginning.
Yeah.
Which I can get to you. Or it's on the Diamond Cutter Classics website, even if you guys want to get it. Here's the verse. With those on the quest for thusness, start by telling them everything exists. So this is my provisional translation of Nagarjuna. Start by telling them everything exists. Help them realize those points and give up desire. After that, take them into the void. He uses the word Wenpa. So I've been translating Wenpa as void when he's using it for emptiness. It means like far out there or far off, like Wensapa. Enpa is how the Tibetans pronounce it, apparently. So this is it, right? The whole life tool really comes from this verse. Nagarjuna said this, and this became something that I thought was worthy of creating a DCI life tool. And every single, Geshe Michael has written now 156 life tools. And, each one of them is like this, there's like some line in scripture or some idea that's presented in scripture that he thought would be worth to expand upon and then write into something that people could relate to. And he did it. And he always puts a bunch of photos and, explains it nicely. And it's incredible. It's an incredible skill. I don't know. He does it fast. He's like, okay, he just hunkers down for a couple days and then he'll have written 12 of them and it'll be like 150 pages. And it's incredible. And they're all good, Sometimes the writing is like there's little errors or whatever in there, but he just cranks it out fast and it's amazing. So that's it. Do you guys have any like thoughts or questions that you want to share? I can keep blabbing, but
I love this particular section. Kind of what you were talking about is like talking talking about Lord Buddha, the starting and ending, because in my mind, I'd always thought of that as just a lower school, like in a way, like discredit it. And when I would meet somebody, like they would come into my life who would sort of be coming from that point of view solely, I had this mental part that would just be like, oh, they're just. But to me, this when we did it in this class, I just thought didn't feel like a lower school anymore to me, because it brings you directly to the goal. And so suddenly I saw it as like a higher school in a way, actually. And I saw how I'd been sort of discrediting it in a way, mentally, not like an overtly, but just sort of like more subtly.
Yeah, yeah, I know what you mean. And I mean, because I had my head buried in this book, like, which is the whole book, the whole 60 verses on reasoning is Nagarjuna using the lower school's ideas to convince them that they're actually already higher school.
Yeah.
So it's definitely like, it's probably fertile ground for making more life tools, because my head is so buried in it, I can't see them that easily. This one jumped out at me. Yeah, I'll send you a copy of it. You can have a look, see what you think. Send me some life tools. You two could win money.
Yes.
Hey,
Yeah, I
Nick,
think, yes.
this is Ella. I
Hey,
actually
how's
made
it
an
going?
attempt. I made an attempt to do a life tool, and I see many, many errors I made. So I'm wondering if you could just like bullet point us real quick, like get the topic, and then like 3 or 4 steps we can take to try to outline it.
Okay, sure. Let's do it. Did you send it to me? Because I don't think I.
I didn't send it to you. I uploaded it to the website where
Uh,
it was when Geshe had first mentioned the competition. So I thought, okay, I'll give it a shot. Can't even remember what I called it. Some about fiction, the fiction we write, the stories we write in our heads.
just email it to me next time, because for some reason I don't see it if it when things get uploaded to the website. But yes, all
Oh,
right.
I'll email it to you anyway. Maybe you can criticize it.
Let's yeah, that's a cool idea though. Let's just, I'll try to outline some bullet points. First of all, you need a catchy title. That's extremely important. Like the two husbands. uh I don't think I'm very good at coming up with these, so I'm not gonna I definitely wouldn't claim that I have a catchy title for this one. Once in a while I'll come up with something good like that, but let's see. Oh, there it was. Dang it. What did I call it? Small steps to big goals. It's okay. I think we could do better. But a catchy title. So that's the first bullet point. Um, good good photos. Nice balanced photos. The photos should go together somehow. Like they shouldn't. It shouldn't be like. I'm not saying I even followed that rule perfectly here, but you don't want to have like a real photo and then like a cartoon as the next one, and then go back to a real one. Ideally, pick a theme and kind of try to weave them together. Obviously, they're going to be different from each other, but it can get, just trying to keep it from being too chaotic. You want it to have, think of like a book or something. You want it to have like a kind of a more continuous feel. So there's a very aesthetic component to creating life tools. Like you want it to flow and you want it to look nice. So yeah, this is like a somewhat well done flow of photos. And then you want to, format it nicely. Break things into digestible chunks. Even this paragraph is on the long side. It's nice to break it into pretty digestible sentences that won't bore people or slow them down. Avoid culturally specific things and time specific things if you can, so that it will be more universal and that it will last for a longer period of time. Obviously avoid anything that could be offensive. Even if Geshe Michael ever does stuff like that, it's another, he can get away with it and probably you can't. uh let's see. So yeah, beautiful photos, catchy title. The meaning has to be correct. So take your time and make sure that you're sticking to ideas that are presented in the text. Of course, you need to extrapolate on them, and sometimes a lot, but don't, it's important not to insert like something that's not related. It's sometimes it's easy, it's tempting to just put in your own ideas. Personal stories are great, you know, but to start, you know, if you're doing this for a DCI life tool though, or you know, something that's related to Buddhism, stick with that, you know, don't start also mixing in some other philosophy, modern psychology, or if you're mentioning it, mention it and make it clear that you're mentioning that, you know, physics, quantum physics says, you know, but you know, take an approach where you're going to stick to this system that we're using. Let's see, I'm trying to think of a checklist. It doesn't have to be this long. Okay, every term, each one of us who are translating a book write 3 life tools for our sponsor. We have one main sponsor, and we write, he wants life tools because he uses them when he does his own teaching. So he literally turns around and just uses them. So it's cool. So we have to write stuff that's practical, and we do like 1 to 2 pages. But when you're writing one, you got to have it clear in your mind what you're trying to communicate, and you also have to have it clear in your mind what specific idea from the scripture you're trying to convey, and don't lose sight of that. You know what I did here to help you guys, but also to help me, is I just wrote a few paragraphs on exactly where it comes from and what ideas I was trying to convey. So those, I think bullet points are, you know, catchy title, nice photos that are flowing together, paragraphs not too long, know exactly where in the text you're coming from, you know, what idea you're trying to convey. And then the last thing is keep it practical and relevant and understandable. So those 3 things: practical, relevant, and understandable. So practical meaning like people can put it into practice right now, you know, with their husband or in their kitchen or whatever. Relevant is it's related, it's almost the same. It's relevant to their lives, you know, and now in the modern world. And understandable, it's like, yeah, it's it's not just like restating, well, a tsema, you know, is a valid cognition of an object, but the object has to be fresh and unerring, you know, it's not like that. It's understandable for anybody. You don't have to have sat through mixed nuts classes. Oh, and it has to be correct, it has to be accurate. So those are the bullet points. I hope that helps. I know it maybe isn't exactly what you were asking.
No, that was perfect. Thank you.
Cool. We have a few more minutes if anybody else has thoughts or questions. Is anybody interested in doing this and creating some? Yeah, I know. A couple of you mentioned you are. See, this one's a cartoon. It's kind of okay. It really makes the point. I think first and foremost, the photos have to make the point that you're trying to make. I think the photo thing is only going to last for another couple of years, and then everything's going to be video. All this writing is probably going to be unnecessary. We're going to do life tool YouTube videos or something.
The metaverse.
What's that?
Metaverse.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's coming. Aaron and I were talking about it. Like what is this going to be like? We're all going to, she was like, what what's it going to be like to watch movies or something? And I was like, probably we're just going to have it in our glasses, like we're not even going to be all looking at the same screen by the time Amelie's a teenager. It's going to be like,
Yeah, Ray-Ban already has YouTube eyeglasses to make.
really,
Yeah, totally.
that's crazy. And I mean, I knew Google was working on that, but anything else, guys, about creating life tools? I'm not looking at the chat. There could be questions in there. I'll look real quick. Baby steps for your dream. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I like that.
Baby steps your dream. I kind of like it even better. Thanks, doctor. That's a good one. Yeah, okay, I'll send it to you guys who want it. I'll get your emails from the Zoom or from the sign up. Where to send life tool text? Send them to me. Just email them to me. If you write a life tool, here, I'll put my email in the chat.
Oh, that works.
Yeah.
And you'll share this document with us?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I'll share this document with everybody who came. If you guys want it. And we have excerpts of the texts available now. I mean, lots of text is available. If you want to find places from where to diamond mine, Geshe Michael has translated a lot of things over time. Anything in the ACI courses and anything in any of his books. He has a ton of them. And we just released Choni Lama's commentary to the Diamond Cutter, Choni Lama's commentary to the Heart Sutra, to Diamond Cutter Sutra, to the Heart Sutra. We just released Light on the Path to Freedom, which is Venerable Utpala's translation of Choni Lama describing how to meditate on emptiness. And then included in that book, Geshe Michael threw in Bhavana Krama, the steps of meditation, and Nagarjuna's steps of meditation. Nagarjuna also wrote a book called Bhavana Krama. So there's so much material. It's not hard to access, and it costs a few dollars if you want to buy the the PDF versions. And honestly, like we'll find a way to get you the electronic book if you have no money. We'll still find a way to. We want to sell you the paper copies for hundreds of dollars because we use that money to help support the project. So ideally, you'll collect our books if you can't afford it, and then that helps support our project. But if not, we'll find. Just email me. I'll find a way to make sure you can get all the information. Any books you need, PDF versions, I'll make sure you can get them when it's ready, when it's edited and ready. So that's all we have time for today. Thank you for bearing with me. I can't tell. I'm so tired this particular term. I feel like half the things I say don't make sense, but this one okay. I just moved and just fixed my house up to move, and and my wife has had some serious health issues. She's getting better, but it's been a hard and tired time. So I apologize for rambling and mumbling. But I'm really, really glad to get to share this with you guys. I hope to see some life tools from you, and I'll show them to Geshe-la so we can win y'all some money. It's cool though. It's cool. You get to, even more fun than that is if you make something and it gets out there. First of all, it gives you some of the inner tools to help people better, which is the most important thing, because that's whether we know it or not, that's kind of what we're all doing here. We're progressing our minds to the point where we can ourselves see emptiness and help others to get there, so that we can get rid of pain. And not just, we don't have to think about just about seeing emptiness, but just to become kinder and more compassionate human beings. It's just, obviously something that this world needs. So I hope this helps, and please work on it. and it's 7:03, so it's time to go for me to have my first coffee. I couldn't use the grinder before because it would wake the kid. All right. Thank you so much. I'll send you the document soon, and take care.
Thanks, Nick.
Absolutely. Good to see you. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick.
Bye.